Donald Trump's approval has plummeted to the worst approval of any president in modern history other than Donald Trump during his first administration. Let me give you some data points, of course, why. This weekend, unusually vicious and damaging weather storms hit the United States Midwest. Violent tornadoes, I think over 54 tornadoes were taking place. Blinding dust storms and fast-moving wildfires left at least 37 people dead. What was Donald Trump doing? Well, he was golfing and vacationing at Mar-a-Lago, running around his resort with Diet Cokes and playing in a golf tournament where he claims he was the winner. And this is what he posted while Americans were dying. This is what Donald Trump posted. And while Americans are suffering, while Americans' pensions and retirement and 401ks are now in the gutter, Donald Trump is having the time of his life, apparently. He posted the following: I just won the golf club championship, probably my last, at Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach County, Florida. Such a great honor. The awards dinner is tonight at the club. I want to thank the wonderful golf staff and all of the many fantastic golfers that participated in the he spells it wrong, I think he meant event. Such fun. Can you say Kim Jong-un awarding himself victories of his own tournaments and celebrating while Americans suffer? Also, as part of the festivities that were taking place as Rome burned and Donald Trump played the fiddle, or should I say walked around with a Diet Coke in his hand, barking orders at people and displaying Mount Rushmore statues that have his face on it. You had the fashionistas posing in Mar-a-Lago in their glamorous gear, all getting ready for the big Birkin bag crock parties where they were displaying handbags that are for sale for the price of $447,000. Yes, that's what the Trump regime is doing. Just so you can see the data of Trump's approval plummeting, let me share this with you. This is from NBC, who did this poll, and here's what Steve Kornacki has to say. Play this clip.
Yeah, Kristen, and you get to it. Let's just start with Trump himself, that 47% job approval rating. Two ways of looking at this. First of all, if you compare Trump to every recent president, this point after coming into office, Trump's number here is the lowest, significantly the lowest of any of his modern predecessors, except Donald Trump in his first term. He was at 40% at this point in 2017.
And by the way, if you actually read the corporate media headlines, you would think that Donald Trump's poll numbers were soaring. I mean, I was reading headlines like a headline from the Daily Beast that was like, Trump's poll numbers are super high. And then I saw Axios, Trump soars and Democrats are in the gutter. By the way, the Democrats' polling, not good at all, but Donald Trump's polling, very bad. You see it right there. Also, if you look at the polling, I mean, Donald Trump is just getting absolutely crushed among independents in the poll. According to the NBC News poll, just 30% of independents approve of Trump's performance in office, 67% disapprove. Immigration now drops to fourth place among voter concerns, with cost of living and political corruption taking the top two spots on voters' mind. And let me share this with you as well. This is from Fox. And just to show you the sentiment on Fox, here they are just talking about how they're not even at this point looking at the stock market. And the host here says that he's more watching Silence of the Lambs, because it's Trey Gowdy, used to be a MAGA Republican congressman, because Silence of the Lambs is less scary than looking at the markets right now. Play this clip.
Joining us is Forbes Media Chairman and Editor-in-Chief Steve Forbes. Welcome, Mr. Forbes. I actually stopped looking at the market. I've been watching Silence of the Lambs. Yes, sir, you too. I've been watching Silence of the Lambs because it's less scary for me than looking at the stock market. So,
you know, as we are watching these horrific storms and the horrible, awful death count, and by the way, we stand in solidarity with everybody who's been impacted by those storms. Our hearts go out to everyone. I wish I could do more than just expose what Trump's doing doing, and then just saying that my heart goes out to you, but you're on our minds right now. But if you just take a look as well, some of the DOGE layoffs were predicted that they would threaten people's lives. Hundreds of weather forecasters and other federal, national, oceanic, and atmospheric administration employees, NOAA employees on probationary status, were fired back in the last week of February. Lawmakers and weather experts talked about the dangers that these cuts could be happening. There were multiple rounds of cuts. Experts warn that the cuts will impact forecasts for tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, and aviation safety, while Elon Musk defended the layoffs, calling them common sense reform of the federal workforce. I think this analysis that was also conducted by the New York Times is an important one to look at right here, how the retaliatory tariffs and Trump's economic policy is impacting these states here and a lot of red states and purplish states as well. The retaliatory tariffs target industries employing 9.5% people in Wisconsin, 8.5% people in Indiana, 8.4% of people in Iowa. The shares are also relatively high in Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Kansas. Also, you take a look at what's going on in Nebraska. Mark Cuban posted this. Nebraska is going to get crushed between tariffs and Medicaid cuts. They have to balance their state budget, and it looks like at least a $200 million shortfall this year. That's before the tariff impacts. And of course, that is a red state. We're also seeing the U.S. Department of Agriculture just doing the most cruel things under the Trump DOGE directives, canceling $11 million in federal funding for North Carolina food banks. That's who they're going after while focusing on giving tax cuts to the richest. By the way, what happened to no tax on tips? What happened to no tax on Social Security? What happened to no tax on overtime? Oh, the MAGA Republicans don't care about those things. What happened when they said there's not even going to be taxes, right? There's just going to be an external revenue service. You don't even need the IRS. They said everyone's going to get so rich from tariffs. Doesn't seem that way at all. But by the way, the architect of Project 2025, one of them, Paul Dans, the other is running the OMB right now, says Project 2025 is doing beautifully. It's way beyond our wildest dreams what's going down, they're saying. They could not be happier with the way things are happening in our country. Donald Trump is also posting this as Americans are suffering. His portrait from 2017 to 2021, his presidential portrait in 2025, which is basically the same photo as his mugshot in connection with felony charges brought against them. And then Donald Trump mocks former President Biden by doing a photo of an auto pen as former President Biden's portrait. At least under former President Biden, we would wake up to record-breaking stock market announcements every day, not having Fox hosts say that they can't even look at it because it's scarier than Silence of the Lambs. We don't have Social Security being called Ponzi schemes, Medicaid being gutted, veterans being fired, 401ks and pensions tanking. By the way, Trump and J.D. Vance have fired more veterans than any administration in the history of the United States. And one of the things I noticed, I'm not sure if you've noticed it as well, and we see this a lot in authoritarian regimes, it's a phenomenon called authoritarian mirroring, where people in the cult try to make themselves look like their authoritarian leader. So I just noticed that, like when Dr. Oz was at a hearing recently where he refused to say that he won't totally get rid of Medicaid, he kind of looked just like Trump. Same hair, same tan face. He dyed his face Trump. And by the way, did you catch MAGA Mike Johnson over the past day or two in the disastrous appearances he made on the weekend shows? He had the crazy Botox going. He dyed his face Trump also. He's got the weird tan, and he was like, the grown-ups are back in town and we're going to take control of this economy. We've got it all figured out. Play this clip.
Now we have President Trump back. He has a great team in place. He has willing partners in the House and Senate, unified government. The adults are back in the room, okay? And we are going to turn this economy around. We need a little runway to do it. I keep using this metaphor of a aircraft carrier. You know, it took decades to get into the mess that we're in. You don't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime, but you need miles of open ocean to do it. But we have begun that turn.
Oh, really, MAGA Mike Johnson? Because let's hear from Scott Bessent, Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, who literally bought himself a home in Charleston, South Carolina, that is valued at about $23 million. That looks like Barbie's mansion, this pink, massive mansion valued at $22 million. This guy's worth $500 million, maybe $1 billion. And he's there. He shows up on all the weekend shows lecturing people about, Americans don't care about their TVs. Americans don't care about these products and lower products. Here's what Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary has to say. Here, play this clip.
I ask you about something that you actually said last week, and we'll discuss it on the other side. Take a look.
Access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. The American dream is rooted in the concept that any citizen can achieve prosperity, upward mobility, and economic security.
Mr. Secretary, are you there essentially saying that the Trump administration is comfortable to have consumers pay more for goods in America?
Not at all, Kristen. What I was saying is the American dream is not let them eat flat screens. That if American families aren't able to afford a home, don't believe that their children will do better than they are. The American dream is not contingent on cheap baubles from China, that it is more than that, and we are focused on affordability, but it's mortgages, it's cars, it's real wage gains.
Do you acknowledge?
I mean, the level of arrogance there. Also, you had Elon Musk mocking the fact that he's basically fired almost everybody at Voice of America. And this is what he says. He calls it dope. And he goes, while winding down this global government propaganda agency, it has temporarily been renamed the Department of Propaganda Everywhere. Dope, much more accurate name. And the new logo is a big improvement. I mean, just the cruelty every day with these folks. And also, I reported this over the weekend. I'm doing a whole other video on this as well. But a federal judge blocked Donald Trump's invocation of war powers under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, where Trump said he was immediately declaring certain people as basically enemy war combatants, as foreign combatants, who are Venezuelans, who he claims are gang members. As part of a hybrid war, he says that Venezuela has declared war, so he must act as a war president. And this act, Alien Enemies Act, had only been invoked since 1789 in the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. The federal judge said, don't do any deportations under this until we have briefing and we assess this issue. But the Trump regime seems to have ignored that order. They sent a group of Venezuelans, about 200 people or so, to El Salvador, to the President Bukele's concentration camps there. And I want to make my point very clear, which is that gang members, people who are engaged in horrific crimes, need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They should go to jail. But we have laws on the books in the United States. The U.S. has one of the highest incarceration rates in the entire world. You know which one has a higher one? El Salvador, which incarceration rate is about 1,800 people are incarcerated for every 100,000 people there. By the way, about 25% of people in El Salvador, or more, maybe it's like 28%, are impoverished. About 8.8% are extremely impoverished. The entire GDP of El Salvador, which Trump and Musk and the regime wants to emulate, their entire GDP is like $35 billion. So while Marco Rubio and Trump praises El Salvador and attacks Canada, the European Union, UK, Australia, and other places, isn't it notable that they admire the places like El Salvador and Argentina, and North Korea and Russia, where the economies are in the gutter and people are living in poverty? I just find that notable. And so Donald Trump has declared that people should not get any due process if he declares you a gang member. He sends you over there, and he made this horrible propaganda video with Bukele where he shaved these people's heads. And again, I have no sympathy for people who are gang members who engage in violent crimes at all, but I do have sympathy for the concept of due process in the United States under our Constitution. A lot of these people say they're not gang members. I just wanted to flag that. I'm going to do a whole other video on that, but I think it's important that I discuss this war powers, and I'm going to do a whole other video. So as America is suffering, Donald Trump's declaring that there's a war and he should have war powers. And just like Kim Jong-un, he's saying that he won his own golf championship while in the background they're doing a crocodile Birkin bag, pink color, I don't know, Playland festivities where they're celebrating $500,000 handbags and purses and pocketbooks that they're giving, that they're buying or they're giving out to people. Do you see what's going on there? and then you have corporate media saying Trump's polls are soaring when they're absolutely not soaring at all. Anyway, we'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.